it is 6 o'clock, Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. We're not live yet. Thank you. I saw my picture on the. We're live. Okay, well, it is 6 o'clock, Tuesday, April 2nd, and I will call this City of Lacey council meeting to order. Before we get started, I just want to make just a quick announcement that Mayor Ryder is attending remotely, and Councilmember Stedman is also attending remotely. And with that, I just have a quick announcement from our mayor.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to address the reprehensible remarks made during the public comment portion of our March 25th, 2024 Commission on Equity meeting. You know, I sort of struggled with whether to give these, ignorant, bigoted remarks any more oxygen, but, there were multiple comments that were anti-Semitic, racist, sexist, and discriminatory and hateful. And I find that these comments despicable, and I condemn them. You can condemn these statements. I'm proud that our city does not tolerate this hate speech and is committed to fostering a diverse, inclusive, and equitable community where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect. I've had some members of our public ask me if I am trying to have certain members of our public have additional rights than other members of our public. And that can't be farther from the truth. What we're committed is to fostering an inclusive environment where individuals can express their opinions and concerns in a respectful and constructive manner. But it saddens me that the opportunity for public comment in a city public meeting was used as a platform for hate speech. But let this serve as a reminder that we all must stand together as a community to defend what is right. Hatred and hate speech will not be tolerated, and it will be swiftly condemned, which is what we did as soon as this came out in a public statement from the city. I know that this entire city will continue to champion our work for a more just and equitable society where all community members can thrive regardless of their race, ethnicity, creed, religion, sexual orientation, or gender, or other personal characteristics. And it's my hope that the people who called in on that day were not from the city of Lacey, that they were outside our city limits. Because as always, I believe that we keep it classy here in Lacey. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Deputy Mayor to begin this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Ryder. And with that, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to read our land acknowledgement, acknowledging our partners who are tribal members. We, the City of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Medicine Creek Treaty as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. And with that, can I please get a motion for this agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have an approved agenda. First up on our agenda is public recognitions and presentations. And today we will have the Lacey Youth Council report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Today we aren't doing the high school reports, but we're actually going to discuss what we learned about in our meeting today. My name is Zuri Ramirez, and I am the deputy mayor for the Lacey Youth Council. At today's meeting, we had the planning manager and the senior planner for the comprehensive plan of the city of Lacey come to discuss and present about the comprehensive plan, and I felt like I learned a lot more about how the plan is striving for affordable housing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Clay, and one thing that I think that we should focus on in the comprehensive plan going forward is giving people reasons to stay or move to Lacey, and I believe like more indoor entertainment options is a good way to do so. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Rory Line, and one thing that I took away from today's meeting is to include the whole community, not just those who want to speak out about the community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eliana Allen, and I think for the comprehensive plan, some of the things that we should really be highlighting are equitable opportunities, representation of all different types of people, and focus on affordable housing as well as eco-friendly developments and projects. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lacey Youth Council. Next on our agenda is public comment. We didn't have anybody sign up to speak via Zoom, and there were no written comments to read into the record. It looks like we have one person signed up here in council chambers, Althea Sims. Please state your name, the city that you live in, and try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
I will.
Okay.
My name is Althea Sims, and I live in the city of Lacey on Roxanne. I was here a few weeks ago regarding your project that was being done. The water tower sits right behind my house. When I bought the house in 2021, I bought it as is. The inspector told me that there had been mice infestation, so I hired a pest control to take care of that. They came out, they took care of it, they closed up holes. I signed a contract for them to continue to do that for a year. When your project started, rats started running everywhere. I called numerous times to talk to Kevin Cools. He either didn't pay me any attention or he didn't forward it on to his superior. So this has gone on now for 2 years. No one ever contacted me, and I believe that no one ever would have contacted me if I had not been here the 3 weeks ago. Then the very next the very next day, someone called, came out, looked, and told me that they would look into it, and they did. Asked me for my invoices. Originally, they told me that they would pay me for what I paid out, and then pay me for the end of your contract, which is in May. So I provided all these invoices. The original amount was $964, but then after that, they said, well, they're not going to pay me for the end of the contract because I haven't paid those bills yet. That's not how that works. If they're going to make me whole, and they say one amount, and then they pull it back saying, no, you have to wait until you pay those. No, that's not how a tort works. It doesn't. you're gonna make me whole, then you pay me for what I paid out and pay me according to what they said the future cost was for the maid, but that's not what they did. So now I'm at the point, now I'm really frustrated that I even have to be standing here again. I really am. This has gone on for over 2 years. So for 2 years, for the year I paid and the 2 years that they guys have been out there, I was not able to enjoy my patio because every time we were out there, rats would come. My grandchildren were afraid of them. I invested into all kinds of entertainment for them that we could not use. And she tells me that, no, they don't have to do that. I was a tort claims investigator for the state of Washington for over 20 years. I've been living in the state of Washington for 34 years. I've been living in Thurston County for 27 years. And I've been living in Lacey for 20 years. And it really annoys me that an entity, a government entity, who say they are here for service, have treated me so badly. The engineer, Kevin, whatever his title is, he started out not doing anything. I call him and call, and he doesn't pass it on to anybody. I can tell you what, if that was me in my position and someone called with me with and I didn't turn that in to my supervisor, heads would be rolling. And then I talked to Ashley, this person who finally calls. She is rude as she can be. Lacey claims that that I never left a number for her, which is not true. I never call any business about any business matter and don't leave a phone number or contact because that defeats the purpose of calling. Okay. So I'm just really fed up with this. So at this point, I am going to file a tort claim because I do believe that I should be made whole again and I should be compensated something for the 2 years that I had to put up with where people just totally ignored me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments today. And can we just make sure she gets reached out to? Okay. Next up on our agenda is the proclamations. And tonight we have a proclamation for the city of Yelm. Today is our Arbor Day proclamation. And we've been doing this for a few years. Just a quick, brief statement. First, Mayor DePinto was unable to attend, but in his stead, we have Mr. Chris Vaccaro, who I believe in the city of Yelm is the most responsible person, or the person who's responsible for all of the Arbor activities, which is great. I remember meeting you out in Yelm for last year's Arbor Day. So just as you know, the city of Lacey was one of the first communities in Washington designated a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. This evening we celebrate our 33rd consecutive year to receive this award. Since first earning the award in the early 1990s, Lacey has invested nearly $7.5 million in tree planting and care and distributed over 32,000 free tree seedlings to community members. We've also invested in our tree canopy in public spaces as well. We're extremely proud that Lacey features more than 6,000 formal street trees along our roadways, and we're equally proud that our community maintains more than 1,200 acres of parkland and open space, creating one of the largest municipal park systems in South Puget Sound, much of it permanently preserving large areas of forested land for us and future generations to enjoy. In recognition of these urban forestry accomplishments and the importance of trees in our community, I'd like to read the following proclamation.
City of Lacey, official proclamation. Whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees, and
whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and
Whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And
Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas and beauty of our community. And
Now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Arbor Month in the City of Lacey. And I encourage all community members to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands, and to plant trees to provide beautification for future generations to enjoy. Signed by myself, Mayor Andy Ryder, on this date.
And Mr. Vaccaro, would you care to come up and just accept this for your city?
Excellent.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Lacey has served as a wonderful sister city to Yelm. We followed suit, also pursuing a Tree City USA certification, which we are in our 28th year. It's been incredible, the tree exchange that we've done over these years. We've come across some very interesting species, and I think this year I may go easier on you and go with something a little smaller. Last year we did an iron parotia, and that thing was over 9 feet tall. So, I think transporting it will be a lot easier if we go with something a little more condensed. But thank you so much for having us. We look forward to hosting you at our Arbor Day on Monday, April 26th. And everyone, you're more than welcome to please come out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Continuing in the agenda, our next proclamation is our Earth Day proclamation. Councilmember Dunning.
City of Lacey, official proclamation. Whereas Earth Day was created 54 years ago, recognizing the importance for everyone to protect the planet on which we live. And
Whereas all life forms on Earth have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and whereas the global community now faces extraordinary challenges such as environmental degradation, global health issues, climate change, food and water shortages, and
whereas all of us have an obligation to preserve the Earth's beauty as well as its resources, this obligation extends not only to today's generation, but also to the future generations who will inherit our planet from us. And whereas Lacey exemplifies the ethos of Earth Day by its continued commitment to conserving water and energy, reducing carbon emissions and waste, and maintaining its Tree City USA designation. And
whereas we proclaim Earth Day, we recognize our obligation to live up to the significance of environmental stewardship every day. And
Now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 20th, 2024, as Earth Day in the City of Lacey. And I encourage all community members to be aware of their impacts on our environment and to participate in stewardship opportunities to preserve local resources. Signed by myself, Mayor Andy Ryder, on this day.
And here to accept this proclamation, our Water Resource Specialist, Ms. Brown. I understand you have a short presentation.
Thank you. Yes, I do.
Okay, would you like to say a few words first?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I came up here to talk about events that I'm hosting in the city of Lacey in honor of both Arbor Day and Earth Day this year. I think the deputy mayor pretty much hit all of the points that I was going to mention about how important Arbor Day is in our community. But I will just say, shout out that this Saturday at Huntemer Park across the street at 9 a.m., I will be giving away native trees and shrubs to anyone who attends. It is first come, first serve. If you're looking to plant a lovely native pollinator garden and you're looking for a small shrub or low-growing tree, please come visit me this Saturday at Huntemer Park. I would love to see all of your faces. In honor of Earth Day and this proclamation, I am also hosting another volunteer-focused event on Saturday, April 20th at Wonderwood Park, and this is it's a community building event, but it's specifically focused on bringing youth out into the parks to provide stewardship in public spaces. We do this in conjunction with the Park Foundation and our local Lions clubs. who are so very generous in that they also donate cash rewards to the schools in our district who have the most student participation. And I know last year they had a $500 prize for the school with the most attendees. This year they upped it to $1,000, and $500 is for our second place. So I am honored that I get to help coordinate these events, and I'm really grateful that I'm in a position where I get to give back to our community because it's incredibly valuable. So thank you so very much for this.
Hopefully some of us will get to make it out to your event. Next up on our agenda is the city manager's report. It looks like the mayor's report is blank, so.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. We have a couple items on the city manager report, informational items to start off with. And first, I'd like to invite Lindsay Fields up to the lectern. She's our climate and sustainability coordinator, and she'll give us an update on the climate and sustainability efforts and what should be coming next in the next couple of years for the city of Lacey.
Good evening. You will be excited to know that I'm not asking you to sign an ILA tonight. So just an update. So yeah, so this is going to be a climate sustainability update on what we have going for 2024, potentially into 2025, so the next couple of years, what we've been working on, the work that you've done, the work that we've done, and the collaborative is doing currently. And so the first slide you're going to see, so these are going to be color coordinated. And not only is it pretty, but these are color coordinated by the TCMP strategy that it coordinates with. So the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan has different strategies and sectors. So the yellow you'll see is the buildings and energy codes, which takes up the largest portion of our greenhouse gas emissions. We have a lot of strategies, we have a lot of actions to get accomplished in that section of the TCMP, but we're working on it. So we should have our Soul Smart designation this month. The application has been submitted, the requirements have been made. We didn't have to do a bunch of stuff for the Soul Smart because our code is already written and pretty favorably towards installing solar. Folks don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. Really, it was building out a website, an informational website for permitting solar. Getting our staff trained on a couple of their Soul Smart trainings, and so we got those completed, and then a couple of planning commission updates as well, and then submitting those memos. And so we will have our designation soon, and then later in the year we'll probably wrap in a couple of code updates that'll maybe push us to a different designation. And so we'll see what we get, we'll see where we start, and we'll move on from there. But really it's a lot like Tree City USA, a little bit more in depth because it requires you to kind of make solar permitting easier, but we already make it pretty easy in the city of Lacey. And so we'll be able to display that within the city and use that as well for information purposes. So as part of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative, the TCMC, our rebrand from the plan, so I am the co-project lead on the Home Energy Score Model Ordinance, co-leading with Tumwater's Alyssa Joneswood. And really that just means that we're helping push the project through. All of the staff is working on it equally, but we really have 2 staff assigned to each initiative to kind of push it through. And so right now we are getting out our initial memo, which will include policy, plans and goals, just research from other home energy score model ordinances, a market assessment, and other things that will initially drive our stakeholder engagement and get us to start. So Olympia is bringing a consultant on board. They're handling that, the contract. We don't have to do that. And they'll handle the stakeholder outreach and engagement. And so we're really in this first step of the process and getting a model ordinance in front of stakeholders to give us feedback. And then we'll make changes, go back, planning commissions, Commission on Equity probably, council will get feedback, and this will be a continuous process throughout the year. We're also designing an energy efficiency campaign. The E3 campaign, I think, is what we're going to go with. We have yet to determine what exactly it's going to look like, but again, that's in the planning phases. It could look like an expansion of, for those of you, the Olympia, Energize Olympia campaign, so group purchasing heat pumps. It could look like something else. We're still working out that, but Pamela or Dr. Braff and Rebecca at Thurston County are the co-leads for that, so they're pushing that through with the help of Lacey and Tumwater. And then our annual report and greenhouse gas emissions inventory is coming out, and we expect to see that by early June. So you all will see that after we finalize that. The greenhouse gas emissions contract per the ILA is going through Rebecca at Thurston County. So we should have a preliminary report by the annual retreat, which is coming up April 15th, and I'll talk about later. And then we'll get a finalized report. And really, it's doing some comparisons to our baseline in 2015 to 2022, 2023, where we're at, and giving us some good metrics to reach for in the future as well. And then the annual report is just the work that we've been doing, an update on the work that we've been doing from our work plans from last year. And then moving on again, so this is a couple of links. So Solar and Lacey is our new solar page for solar permitting. The other link is Solarize Thurston. So Solarize Thurston is open to all Thurston County residents. You can go on to Solarize Thurston, which is done through Olympia Solar, a nonprofit. You can register to sign up for this program, talk to a provider. They can come out, a contractor can, see if your roof is good for solar. And really what you get is a lower cost on the panels. So they've negotiated with a couple of contractors doing their contract, and you get that price. And so this is open until July. It's on the website. I think it's like July 15th or something. So Thurston County residents can sign up and have someone come out, look at their home, and see if it works out for them. And so it helps lower that cost to put solar in your home. And we're partnering with them, and by partnering with them, we're just pushing out information to our residents, posting stuff on our socials, and trying to talk to people in our community about going solar. And so then this is, so the thing I'm most excited about is our matching rebate program. We have spent to date about $80,000 towards direct rebates to customers. I have a slide later showing you where those are at. But I'd just like to preface that with that the electrification rebates, the furnace rebates are a lower portion of those, but they take up a much higher cost that we're seeing, which is really great because we want to be able to offset those really high cost things for folks to be able to put heat pumps in, electrify their home if that's what they'd like to do. And so total between their PSE rebates and what we've matched, it's like $160,000 for residents in Lacey. And we're on par to expend the $150 that we have set aside for this program this year by May 15th. So people are really using this program. They're getting information about it. I get calls a lot and get to talk folks through it and try and work out problems that are happening to get folks rebates. So after May 15th, the program will end for this year, and we'll get to come back with PSC and talk about what it looked like in the future, come back to council, see if this is something we want to keep forward with our other programs that we have going as well, and really see where our budget's at and see if we can do more next year, less next year, and what that's going to look like. I'm hopeful that we can continue it as long as it works for Lacey and it works with PSC, and I think it will. It's been a really good partnership. I can't complain about anything. The person I'm working with at PSC we're both really passionate about it, so it's been great. Yeah. Yes.
So you mentioned the furnace and heat pump upgrades.
Yep.
What other kinds of things have we
Yep.
seen
So
matching?
a large portion of them you'll see are like washers and dryer purchases. So those are about $100 each. And then smart thermostats, you can get about $75 for installing a smart thermostat. And then the higher ones as well are like weatherization. You can get rebates for that. Or putting new windows in, new insulation in your house. Those can get really costly as well. So those kind of rebates. And PSC actually changed their rebates this year, and they added more money to those types of rebates. So that's really great. And we're seeing some of those higher cost ones come through as well. Yeah, and that's about 224 rebates total. Some folks have used the rebates for multiple. I could break down the numbers by household as well if you'd like to see those, for sure. Some of these are people participating in washers and dryers, and maybe or one person did like insulation, windows, doors, and so it was like a lot of really great valuable rebates. And so this is what this looks like. So as you can see, clothes dryers and furnaces actually are making up the largest portion of the rebates that we're matching. But again, the furnace and the heat pumps are making up the most amount of money. So $39,000 for furnace upgrades and about $16,000 for heat pumps. And that's really exciting. Moving on to transportation and land use. So we've purchased to date about 12 new EVs for our fleet electrification, and that includes a couple of really pretty Ford Lightnings, which I have yet to drive, but am making it a note that I have yet to drive it and I would like to. And then we're starting to work on our commute trip reduction plan in coordination with TRPC. So they're leading that as they're the entity to do that, and then they're just working in coordination with us to update that plan. I think it was supposed to be updated a few years ago, and then COVID hit, and so now we're doing it. And it's coming out at the same time as our comp plan, well, probably a little bit earlier, but so a lot of new planning going in. And then I think as well, we've installed 3 or 4 new chargers at the shop for these electric vehicles as well. We have a couple of EV projects that were just on hold in the city that should be completed this year. The rack for sure will be completed, and I think the other EV chargers will be completed as well.
So have these made it out on a work day? Yeah.
The trucks?
Yeah.
They should have. This was them. This was right when they got them about 3 months ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're being outfitted, conditioned, and then we're using them as a test run to see what their charging needs are and how we can facilitate as we get more of these vehicles in. So they may not be assigned to a specific work unit, but they are being used sporadically just to test out how we do for the charging and hold the charge and recharge them overnight.
Yep.
Have they made it through an entire workday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we also might have 1 or 2 fast chargers at the shop as well for these. And so getting that charge overnight and making sure, and then throughout the day if we need to, obviously with the fast charger. And then, so another thing that I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of me this next coming year and next year is the comprehensive plan updates, which have a lot of requirements for climate and sustainability. I'm just wrapping my head around everything that Commerce is slating us to do. It'll touch every aspect of the comp plan. We're talking land use, transportation, parks and recreation, even though we already have a new parks comp plan, including building out 2 new sub-elements within a climate element. So that'll include greenhouse gas reductions sub-element, and then also a climate resiliency sub-element. So the good thing, though, is that Commerce asked us to do a lot, but they gave us money to do it, so we don't really have to front all of this work on ourselves. We were, per their calculations, we have about $700,000 to spend on planning activities for climate, and that can be expended over till 2029. This round for this comp plan, we got $350,000 to do this work, which should really help us get everything we need. It'll be a long talking about climate stuff. So I hope that you like talking to me, because you will. So that's just the really big update. And then the last big update is April 15th. We have our regional initiative where we get to select a regional initiative for 2025 for regional coordination. And the staff team has kind of put some parameters around this year to make it less big, because keep in mind, in 2025, we'll be implementing what we're working on this year. So our program will be in the implementation phase for the E3, the home energy score, whatever happens with that at the end of the year, either implementing or talking to our councils or trying to fit it in. So that's work that we have to do. So I think the staff team came up with about 5% of staff time to focus across for a new initiative. So we're going to go a little bit higher level and focus on a strategy or sector that needs a bit more work, and really start with the back end planning phase, and more to come after the regional retreat on what consensus building is around that strategy or sector. But having conversations at the city, and so that we can advocate for what's going to work for us. And obviously all the jurisdictions want to have something to work on together in 2025. And so we want to make sure it's something that we can get all of our jurisdictions behind as well. And I think that is it. Questions, comments, concerns?
Any questions from the council? Not at this time.
Awesome.
I'd just like to Am I stepping on you? Okay. I'd just like to thank you for the report on that, Lindsay. That's just an amazing accomplishment in a year's time, and I'm really happy that Lacey residents are taking advantage of these opportunities to make savings and get some savings themselves for doing
Absolutely.
so. So it's great.
Looks like Mayor Ryder has a comment for you.
Yes, I just want to say that's great news all around. A lot of this work came from a conversation that the former city manager Scott Spence and myself sat down with PSE and asked, what they were doing and what kind of plans they had, and we had this conversation, but it's like, well, what if we match your rebates and did this great program for our community where we're able to have homes more energy efficient and all these other things. And it was, just this idea that we had, and now you see how successful it's been. I've had actually several members of our community come up and thank me in the city of Lacey for this rebate program, where they said there's no way they would be able to do their energy efficiency upgrades if it wasn't for the PSC rebate and the matching rebate from the city of Lacey. And so to see, an idea actually go into fruition, and it's actually out there helping and making homes more valuable. It's really great to see it all. So I just want to say thank you, Lindsay, for implementing this program. And I hope that council will continue supporting this, because I think it's a great way for us to meet our needs, our CO2 reduction needs, and also adding value to our community.
Yeah.
So you said that the funding may run out by the middle of May.
It will run out.
Okay.
The trajectory we're on right now, I just had a meeting this week with the folks I'm working with at PSC. If we, and so I actually have another invoice coming at some point, which will be for another $50,000, which will get us to over 100 that we've spent this year of the 150. And there's definitely some I'm making sure to build in some we're not going to hit the 150 on the nose. That's just how these things work. So building in, we can spend more if we need to get rebates. But the May 15th is the cutoff for work having to be completed. So if you're looking to get the matching rebate, this will be posted on the website tomorrow as well. You need to have the work completed by May 15th in order to receive the matching rebate for City of Lacey folks. The PSC rebates will keep going throughout the year. But yeah, it's just how much we're spending on heat pumps, really. Which is kind of pushing us faster. And it may slow down because heat pumps are definitely a winter thing that you put in. But we anticipate, yeah.
And is this something that was pushed out? I mean, was this word of mouth that we were having this great success with, or was this more like?
Yeah, we've spent some money on, and not even money, we've just spent time on getting the word out. PSC has done a really great job of pushing it out to on their emails. They did a big blast about the program. We did a webinar and that we posted to our website, and people have been watching and getting information. And then we've been pushing it out on Lacey Life. We've been doing social media around it. And we even did a postcard mailing where we sent it out to all of our people in the city of Lacey. Yeah.
And not only that, the local providers.
Yep.
So
yeah.
They're the ones, so especially if a customer is interested in a heat pump, they go, oh, by the way, if you're really interested in this heat pump, there's a rebate from PSE and a matching rebate from the city of Lacey, and it will, in some cases, cover the entire heat pump. And the customers, a lot of times, will go no, that can't possibly be right. You're I'm gonna get a heat pump for, with no money out of pocket, and that has been the case in some circumstances. So
yeah,
so the local providers are very well aware of this, and of course it's helped them. They get made whole on the heat pumps, and we're providing a huge value for our residents.
Yeah,
so it's no surprise that how successful this has been, because it's a win-win for everyone at this point.
Yeah, and that's one of the really great things about the relationship we have with PSE. We've actually been able to leverage their relationships with their preferred contractors to get this information, which may have been more difficult for us to like just starting up, like, here's this new program. You know, the trust that PSE has built with them, we're able to like tap into as well. So, yeah.
Well, just to add a little bit to the kind of the, when we first started talking with PSE back in, I think it was early 2022, because it took a while to figure out how to mash this program with their system. And they really didn't have a lot of activity out, and it wasn't being, received or utilized, their rebate program. And we were looking at starting this as a pilot program for Lacey as an initiative to incentivize for Lacey households. And there's some, wasn't sure how receptive or how utilized it would be. So this has been a great success compared to what we're looking at going into. And I think also it helped PSE get their rebate programs more widely disseminated out in the community as well, because again, they weren't getting a lot of traction. They weren't issuing a lot of rebates. But it sounds like with this program and some of the joint marketing efforts and the coordination within Lacey, that's really become more of a widely known program, incentivizing homeowners to be able to upgrade their homes for energy efficiency with this double rebate system and maybe put it over the top. So knowing that we may be looking at May 15th, we'll be reevaluating going into the budget session to look at how do we get prepared for the next round of rebates if council wants to go that direction.
Yeah, and I think important, maybe I'll just make that as a note too, to ask Amit, is our pre-pilot program, how many rebates we had in the city of Lacey versus what we're seeing now? I think that'll be a really good data factor.
Just a quick question. Was May 15th always the date that, was it just because that's when the money was running out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We set it up
we weren't
originally.
sure.
We set up originally to have a certain number of dollars because we weren't sure, but we didn't want to use it all of our climate initiative dollars.
Yep.
Sounds like, and we started the program last fall,
August.
last August, and so not even a full 12 months, and we've seen those dollars being utilized into the community.
Yeah.
And also, with local businesses as well, providing those services.
Yeah, and a lot like you see with these programs, it was kind of slow on the uptake as people hear about it. Is this really happening, right? Like, are they matching rebate? But now that people know it is really happening, they definitely went really fast this year.
Was this based on a preferred provider list, or was it just?
So it really depends with PSE. They're like weatherization, you have to use their preferred providers, but you can install stuff yourself for like heat pumps and other things. The May 15th just really came about with conversations I had with the folks I'm working with at PSE around what makes the most sense with the money we have left, and also me being maybe a little more stressed about not going super over budget. And so originally we were like, oh, maybe the end of this month, but actually I think we'll have enough for May 15th. And so we just kind of, right in the middle of the month, we're like, we're going to end it. Yeah.
Awesome.
For this year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you, council.
Great work once again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy, and I appreciate you working that stress on the budget.
Yeah.
So next on our report is another informational update. I want to invite Wesley Wynn, our Economic Development Coordinator, up. They've just been finishing up the RFP process for our new manager for the pop-up market that's going to be occurring this summer at the Depot Plaza, the Food Truck Plaza. And Wesley's going to provide nice information on where we've come from, and then what to expect going into this next season.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ryder, Deputy Mayor Miller. As per the city manager, I'm here just to give an update on the Market Depot. The market event is just an effort to continue making Lacey a vibrant place to live, work, play, and create a diverse economy, enabling entrepreneurs to experience. And so, before I dive into the market, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Food Truck Plaza and the Depot District. The City of Lacey did a Depot District sub-area plan in 2018 to develop a vision for the community. That vision included the city taking a lead in introducing civic and cultural use of the city-owned site for the future museum. As for the retail recommendation, the plan called for food and entertainment-based offering. To jumpstart the food and entertainment retail, the city started working on the food truck plaza as one of the opportunity to identify in the plan. We piloted the food truck in 2021, and at that time, we only have lunch offering due to our limitations. As we learned and we added a few new items like electrical outlets and sunshade in the shading area, these add-on allow vendors to be there all day. As we continue to make improvement on these sites, to this temporary site, in 2024, we currently have 6 trucks there serving food from Jamaica all the way up to Mexico. We recently received an award from the Economic, did I press back? We recently received an award from the Washington Economic Development Association for our effort in this work. And yeah, and so now moving on to the market. One of the tools in creating a vibrant depot district, the city piloted the food truck market to complement the food trucks. So in year 1, 2022, we organized 1 market event per month. And we saw at the end of COVID restriction, people wanted to be outside. They wanted to talk to each other, to their neighbors. And we saw that at the market. And so in year 2, 2023, we hired a local event company to recruit vendors and organize the event. Last year, we did 14 market events at the depot, and I'll share some of the data with you on the next slide. So, like I mentioned, we did 14 events. We had visitors from Thurston, Lewis, and Pierce County. We also have vendors from those counties as well. The event averaged about 30 vendors. And then as far as visitors, we have about 500 to 600 visitors per event that attended the event. During the holiday theme, like the Halloween theme event, we had over 1,000 visitors, and the parking lot would be full, and with families enjoying the entertainment and costume contest. It was great to see that. And then as far as marketing these events, we use the city website, we use our Facebook, we use Instagram. The contractors also use her social media outlet to push out the events. In total, we had about 10,000 followers on these 2 organizations to push out these events. Even Thurston Talk did an article about these events as well. And then this is just one of the quote that I got from one of the food truck vendors that was there. Maggie is a first-time entrepreneur. She's a military spouse. During these market events, she was able to talk to visitors, and so she was able to secure a couple of catering events and parties due to some of the visitors that come through. And so for 2024, earlier this year, we put out a RFP for a market event coordinating service, posted on our website, submitted a notice to local newspaper, sent emails to businesses on the MRSC small work roster as part of our effort to recruit widely. We received 4 proposals, form a cross-department interview panel to interview 3 top candidates for it. After several evaluation conversations, we selected Sway Night Market to be this year's market event coordinating. And a little bit about Sway. Sway is a local company based out of Lacey. Their proposal was very innovative and not just business as usual. They have experience in managing repeated events such as their Only at Night events at Ricardo's. They also work with the Olympia Farmers Market and the Downtown Alliance event as well. Lastly, their budget was within the range of our allocated funding for this project. The picture on the right is Jason Juan. He's a Marine Corps veteran and the business owner of Sway. And these are just some pictures of some of the event that they did last year. The one on the right is that Ricardo at Night. The one on the far left is at the Tumwater Craft District event. And the bottom picture with the musicians is at Downtown Olympia events that drew about 13,000 attendees. All right. So for 2024 market, we'll be launching our first event on April 26th. So please mark your calendar. We're planning to do every other Friday, starting from 4 p.m. If any of the council member be interested, we would love to have you on camera and do a Facebook video to share on the city Facebook that evening. Our goal is to have about 30 vendors that evening. So please come and join us. Sway will be scheduling live entertainment and have various games at the event. So expect to have a fun evening for the whole family. And then future plan. As you all know, the market and the food trucks are on a temporary site, because that's the future museum site and also the parking lot for the museum where the food trucks are at. So we also own a small triangular parcel east of that location. We'll be putting out an RFP to do a feasibility on that parcel in the near future to look at what are the possibility of converting that into a permanent site for the market and for the food truck. And then what would that investment might look like as well. We also be looking out for properties that will be accommodating this venture. We continue to look for a continuum of service to help facilitate business success in Lacey. We're looking at services as incubator, commercial kitchens, cold packing facility to support the community's need. The current market location, again, is slated to be the future Lacey Museum. So we hope to build on this momentum and expand the civic presence of the Depot District with a permanent market and a food truck site. So thank you.
Thank you. Continue on with it. Just real quick. So the site has grown, and it has grown in a very nice way. I remember when we started this, and I told the city manager, it's not big enough. There's not enough there. We got to have more trucks. We need to be able to get rid of the gray water. Hurry up, make it, and and Rick convinced me to slow down a little bit, and said, we want to do all those things. It's just, they take money and time, effort, energy, and he's much more better at economic growth than I am. I'm a little more impatient than Rick, but it's really coming along. And when it seems like every year that I drive by, something new is there, and I recently saw the shade coverings, and I was going by one day and I saw the tents. I was compelled to stopped, hung out with people. It was great. And now you're telling me that there's going to be more events there, concerts there, live music, and all kinds of fun things happening there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you're going to get any of the council members to do Facebook videos. I'm not sure where that council, but we'll see how that turns out.
Ryder did.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it again. And I'm really happy that Sway ended up getting this contract. They've been very successful doing their night markets at Ricardo's, and so I had no idea who was going to win the RFP, but I think they're going to be very well suited, and it's going to be great to see activity there a couple times a month. And so I think that's what we really needed, is more activity there on the weekends, and it's going to be good to see that. We do need to have a conversation about where the permanent location of our food truck court's going to be. Obviously we're going to look at that triangle area. Parking might be a little bit difficult. There's another business there that's sort of right in the middle that doesn't make it too conducive, but there's always options going forward. So I do look forward to continuing to have these conversations, because I do think we need to come up with a permanent site, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to be investing in a temporary site long term. But if we can find a permanent site, whether it's there or another piece of property, I think close by, I think we do have some opportunities over there in that area, the Depot District, and I look forward to seeing this continue to grow, because I know that our community really likes it as well. So thank you for what you're doing, and I look forward to it being successful.
Councilmember Dunning.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of reiterate, I've been a big proponent of farmers market for about 15 years now, and I made a push 5 or 6 years ago to try to get one started in Lacey. So when this popped up, I was really excited, and thankfully I spent about half my day within about 1 minute walking distance to the Lacey Depot. And I know it's probably not a great long-term site, but just to see it grow over the last few years, especially when we had COVID, has been really impressive. And every time there's an event, I probably have 40 to 50 people come to my business and be, well, what's going on over there? And so I am really excited to see how this can grow. Probably not, within 1 minute walking distance, but I do think that a market like this and a farmer's market, I don't think there's a lot of opportunities for, like you said, 600, 1,000, 1,500 community members from all different backgrounds, families get together on a regular basis. So I'm really excited to see what this can turn into, and I think it can be something that Lacey eventually becomes known for, like some of the other cities in our state. And thanks, for all the work you guys have done before I was on this council to make this happen.
Awesome. Back to you.
Thank you, Wesley. And again, just to recap, it's been a nice effort to kind of test and see what the response was, and the response has been very good. So our next step, as Wesley mentioned at the end of this presentation, is to start looking at what do we do for a feasibility study of what that permanent location is. The mayor said, originally we thought about that triangle piece, but there's some challenges there. You got the museum construction. At some point in the future, how does this complement that, and try to create that civic presence and identity at that part of the one-way couplet, become the Depot District neighborhood. So eventually that will get there. And also with the food trucks, we continue to get interest in food trucks to locate there. We just signed a contract today, a lease agreement today with a new truck that's Olympia Pita. So another variety, another different type of food coming in. So looking forward to see that and what they have to offer.
So that actually leads me to my question as I was driving by there today, and I noticed that we've got the cinder blocks. So we've got the food trucks. We've got parking, food trucks, cinder blocks, big space, cinder block, road, right? That's what I noticed. So are we going to get to a point where like we remove the cinder blocks and put some extra trucks in that vacant space, or are we just trying to keep a very manageable situation? What is our growth potential for this site as a temporary site?
It is a temporary site, and one of our limitation is electrical outlets. And right now, we only have outlet for 6 trucks. And so trucks have been calling me all the time asking to join, but I told them currently we are already full. If they come with the generators, they can definitely come, and we have space for them to park and use it. But as far as electrical outlet, especially if they're gonna park there overnight, because a lot of the trucks have refrigerations that need to be plugged into so that's one of the challenge.
Okay, that helps.
Do you know if there will be an expansion or more trucks when we were having the actual Friday events?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because those events is 4 to 8 or 4 to 9, so they can use generators during those hours.
And they'll bring additional capacity in. And then also too, as was mentioned, is we're excited to see this new VAMP to have every other Friday evening to get some consistency so that people, it's on their radar of something to do at the end of the week, family oriented, come have, some food, entertainment, and end the week in a good way. So building those community networks. Okay, the last item I have on the city manager report tonight is our 2023 year-end financial update. And I'll kick it over to our finance director, Troy Wu, to provide that overview.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, council. You do have in your packet the full details of the 2023 year-end financial report. This is really a bit of our report card in terms of how we performed in terms of revenues and expenditures in the past year. I would like to emphasize that these are preliminary numbers. In the accounting world, we balance a couple different principles. There's transparency, there's timeliness, and there's accuracy, and there's a balance between those. So I am here to say that these numbers are not accurate. They're going to change with 100% certainty, but from a cash perspective and the major revenue sources and expenditure sources, we feel very confident. A lot of the changes that will occur will be accrual-based accounting type of entries, so non-cash type of entries, think depreciation. So there's no depreciation in any of these numbers, but these are significant numbers and will definitely have an impact. But again, we feel confident about where we're at in terms of the cash position for the city. So my comments will focus on the general fund. Of course, this is the fund that provides the services that citizens most identify with. I do have slides that won't be quite as busy as this, but in terms of the current expense fund, which is our largest fund within a general fund, you could see that in terms of expenditures, we did have an increase of about $11.1 million over the previous year. So we expended so far about $55.4 million in 2023. There's three main areas that contribute to this increase. The first is increases to salaries and benefits. We had about a $5.8 million increase to general fund salaries and benefits. I do have detailed slides following that will provide a little more explanation for that. We also have a $1 million small business grant that we use to improve and expand the makerspace over at the St. Martin's campus. And we had a pretty significant increase to transfers, mostly related to the police station and the rack parking lot. So of those, oops, I'm sorry, this keeps going the wrong way. Of those three areas, that makes up about $10.5 million of this increase. So, 95% or so of the increase comes from those three areas. I would like to highlight about 5 departments just to provide a little more detail in terms of the remainder of the variance. Contracted services actually increased. Where we're seeing the increase in this area, it's about $770 in total. District court costs increased about $110,000. Jail costs increased about $440,000. This is really an indication of the court system, the judicial system getting back into full swing after the COVID pandemic. In terms of social services, we are showing a decrease of about $480,000. We had one-time expenditures in 2022, improvements to the Veteran Services Center of about $450,000. And we also had a catch-up in our distributions to the county for affordable and sustainable housing sales tax, so it's really just a catch-up on that interlocal agreement with the county. Parks maintenance services increased about $460,000. The main areas here were improvements to the irrigation controls. You might remember that's a multi-year project to improve and bring up to date all the irrigation systems in the city. And we also had overall an increase to irrigation of about $75,000. Community and economic development had an increase of about $1.4 million. This is where we expended the $1 million in the small business grant that we received, as well as the remainder of that increase comes from salaries and benefits. Transfers out, the most significant variance here, about $3.8 million, and again, that comes from one-time transfers for the police station as well as the rack parking lot. The remainder of the general fund departments are listed here, so there are 6 departments that do make up the general fund. You can see the general fund overall had expenditures increase of 12.5 million. Again, 11.1 was from the current expense fund. Isolating the 5 other general fund departments, criminal justice actually had a decrease of about 330,000. This is entirely salaries and benefits. So this is a special revenue that comes in for criminal justice. So we do isolate those costs, and we really just balance those revenues with the overall police budget. So we balance that with labor. Community buildings had an increase of about 430,000. Salaries and benefits increased about 60,000 within this area. We had a number of one-time repairs to buildings that occurred in 2023. The most significant happened at the child care center, so about $150,000 of increased repairs happened at that facility. The RAC athletic complex, or the regional athletic complex, I'm sorry, actually decreased about 136,000. The council might remember that we had a 6-year catch-up in terms of irrigation. We didn't have a meter that was reading correctly. So that was a $290,000 one-time catch-up expense that occurred in 2022. The street fund increased about just under $1 million. We had salaries and benefits in our street fund increase about $250,000. We had transfers out for one-time capital purchases of about $300,000. We purchased another bucket truck as well as a mini front end loader for that function. We had about $175,000 increase to electrical supplies. What we found is there's a long lead time on light poles. A long lead time on light poles.
Oh, okay.
So if you live near a roundabout, that tends to be a magnet for cars hitting light poles. You've probably noticed that it takes months, it seems like years to get a new pole. That's not an illusion. It's been taking about 9 months, I think, to get a replacement pole. So we actually increased our supplies there. We ordered some in advance just in anticipation of future poles being hit by vehicles. So that makes up that increase. And I think of note, within the street fund, the right-of-way maintenance costs increased about $140,000. So this is a function that our parks maintenance division actually performs. So think about the roundabouts, maintaining the greenery inside the roundabouts. Think about street trees and all the expansion we've had in the city. So that is just a growing function. And again, that is really an interfund charge that happens from the Parks Maintenance Division into the street fund. And then our capital equipment fund increased about $450,000. That was primarily from transfers out. We had some of the funding for the RAC parking lot come from this fund, as well as the repairs to the Wonderwood Park Trail system. So looking at the other side of our budget, looking at general fund revenues, you have here on screen the tax section of the general fund revenues. You could see that we collected almost $2 million more than the budget. The main areas came from property tax. Property tax, as you know, we exercise the 1% council authority in terms of increase. We had new construction, we had annexation. We did anticipate about a $430,000 increase of property tax, so we're pretty close there. In terms of utility tax as a whole, the increase was just under $700,000. I do have slides later in the slide deck that provide details on sales tax, but in general, construction has remained strong, and the restaurant industry has been an area of strength within sales. B&O tax, business and occupation tax, that really follows the same trends as sales tax. It is retail activity primarily. But I will make note that in in the B&O tax. We think some of the increase is coming from the service industry. So you think about the recovery from the pandemic, services were an area that really were damaged by the safety restrictions that were imposed because of the pandemic. So we think that is definitely contributing to increased B&O tax as well. Looking at the fees and charges for services section of our budget, an overall increase of about $750,000. The two main areas contributing to that increase are licenses and permits and plan check fees. Building permits increased about $146,000 in 2023. Plan check fees increased about $535,000. I think what's really important here is this is an indication of future development, future construction that's going to happen in Lacey. So we're seeing some strength in that area, and that should carry over into certainly 24 and hopefully into 2025. Intergovernmental revenues increased almost $4 million. Almost all of that is in the grant area. What makes up this $4 million is the $1 million grant for the makerspace, as well as applying about $3.2 million of the ARPA dollars towards the police station. So that was sitting in an unearned revenue account. We can't count it as revenue until we expend it. So it ends up being revenue in 2023, even though we received those funds a couple years ago. Miscellaneous revenues for the general fund, an overall increase of about $5.3 million. Almost all of that comes from interest earnings of $5.1 million. And this is definitely an area that is going to change. We have a governmental accounting standards board statement that says we have to apply market value to all of our investments. That makes up the majority of that number. It's actually a carryover from last year, but the actual interest earnings for the current expense fund was about $1.4 million. The rest is in that market adjustment. So when we finalize our evaluation of 2023 market value, we're actually going to see a decrease of about $3.3 million. So it's going to balance that back out. So again, I don't want to indicate that we've had that kind of gain in terms of interest revenues, but 1.4 is still a very healthy increase in terms of those earnings. I do want to talk about the utility funds. It's definitely a significant portion of our budget. So you're seeing the three main utilities for the city in terms of comparison of 2022 to 2023. In short, everything came in as expected. Although I will state that the water revenues, water sales, a little bit higher than expected or compared to the annual rate increase. It was a long, hot summer last year, so that definitely impacted volume. There's definitely some growth factor that goes into that increase too. So of the $2.9 million increase in water revenues, about $1.5 million came from water sales. We have about $370,000 in interest increases, and again, that market adjustment for revenues impacted all of these funds. So for water, that market adjustment was about an $800,000 impact. The wastewater utility, we have about a $1.6 million increase to revenues. About $700,000 is coming from sewer sales. The lot increase was about $275,000. Again, you have the market value of our investments impacting this by about $500,000. Stormwater, we have an increase of.
Go ahead.
So that's a pretty significant increase into what we were expecting. Will that change our rates going forward, considering we brought in considerably more than we thought we were going to bring in?
Well, we did adopt multi-year rates. The council can certainly revisit that, but you've also seen presentations of significant capital investments that are going to happen. So, off the cuff, I would recommend that we don't adjust rates from what the council adopted. Any additional revenues that we collect here will just mean less debt in the future that we may need. And it will buy down future rate increases as well in terms of the next time we, look at multi-year rates.
I'm curious to what the actual increase in revenue compared to what we thought it was going to do is going to actually do to our, our rates. I do think our utility costs, hit our residents considerably more than any other rate we have, including property taxes.
Yeah.
I think we, on average, our utility rates is probably the number one, cost for our residents. And so I just want to make sure that when we're making these projections, if our revenues are coming in significantly more than that, we actually know where that's at, when we're compared to the projects we need. I understand there's always more projects than we have revenues, but we also have to balance that based on what the actual revenue income is. And so I'd at least like an update to see where we're at on a revenue compared to what we need to spend going forward at some point.
Sure, and I think, I think that's very true for the water fund. So for wastewater, the increase to, wastewater sales was about 9%. We had a 9.5% rate increase in wastewater. So we actually underperformed in terms of that expectation. Stormwater, we had an increase of about 6.5%. The rate increase was 4.5%, so fairly close. Water, we had about a 10% increase to water sales, where the adopted rate increase was 5.25%. So that, again, I think the water utility is definitely, to your point, Mr. Mayor, that we could certainly take a look at that, look at the kind of long-term projections for the utilities and see what that looks like in like a 6-year horizon.
Let's do that. Just at least so peace of mind for me and for our residents that we're continuing to. I know there's always big projects and there's a long wish list of things that we need to do, but when our revenues come in considerably more than what we projected, then I think we do have the responsibility of taking a look at the long-term effect of that and adjusting if necessary.
Sure, absolutely. We could certainly do that due diligence. The council just heard 2 weeks ago about the Public Works Trust Fund loans that we're going to start taking draws on in the water fund. That was $10 million, so we're already borrowing $10 million to move forward with those projects. But yeah, certainly we could model those, the results of 2023 and look forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I finished there. In terms of expenditures for the utilities, again, they came in pretty much as expected. Water expenditures increased about $900,000. Just about all of that was increases to salaries and benefits. There were actually a decrease to capital transfers in this fund of about $300,000. The wastewater fund expenditures increased about $1.9 million. About $330,000 was from salaries and benefits. The lot transfer was about $300,000. We had an increase to capital transfers of about $1.4 million within this fund. Stormwater expenditures increased about $1 million. Salaries and benefits was about $100,000. The capital transfer for stormwater was just over $800,000 more. So let's look at some of our indicators going forward for 2024 and 2025. Here you have an illustration of the last 10 years of Property tax increases, so you're seeing the actual increases from new construction with the red line. The additional assessed valuation are the columns or the bars. And you can see that we had a great deal of development that occurred right up until 2021, and we've been in a decreasing scenario in terms of new construction. The same thing has really happened with the increase to property tax. But really focusing on 2023, I think there's kind of an interesting phenomenon that's there. So in 2023, 2024, both years we added about $176 million in new valuation. In fact, it was 176.7 in 2023, and it was 176 even in 2024. But you could see that the increase from that new construction in 2023 was almost 156,000, and then this year that increase dropped to 119,000. So how this credit is calculated is you take the current year's addition of new construction times the current year levy rate. So as you know, the levy rate has been dropping quite quickly over the last 5 years here in Lacey. But that also means that the impact of new construction is less when that happens. But as you know, we did have a slight increase to the levy rate in 2024. So we'll see. 1 year certainly doesn't make a trend, but this is something we'll be watching carefully. What's important here also is that this new construction credit is not subject to the 1%. So these are new properties that get added to the tax roll. They're simply, paying the current tax level. So this is something that doesn't impact the existing properties. So it really is important in terms of future growth of property tax looking forward. Here are the details of the year-end sales tax for 2023 versus 2022. And of course, Council, you see the monthly email that provides more details. But our top category, general merchandise retailers, increased 2.7% in 2023. The average inflation over the year was about 5.5, so roughly half in terms if you just think dollar to dollar. Definitely, they kept prices definitely increased in terms of that inflation, but that probably means that the sales volume actually went down in this category. The category highlighted in red, sporting goods, hobby, music, instrument, and books. It's showing a 13.3% decrease. You might remember, or maybe not, it's been a while, but in 2022 we had one-time impacts from the federal COVID response. So that really inflated this category in 2022. Really we're kind of back more to normal in 2023. So again, that decrease is more of a one-time impact in 2022. The categories highlighted in blue, these are categories that are highly impacted by development in the city. Obviously, construction is a development piece, but merchandise wholesalers as well as professional, scientific, and technical services, these are often impacted by development. I think the best example within these two categories are the HVAC systems that go into major development. Those are, depending on how the supplier categorizes themselves, they often fall under either merchant wholesalers or technical services. So you'll see these categories fluctuate along with construction. And then the final top 20 category I'd like to highlight is food services and drinking places, 7% increase. I think we're still seeing the recovery from COVID. You think about the restrictions that were still in place in 2022. So I think we're comparing, restricted activity in 2022 to what has become, more normal in terms of volume and space. I mean, there's no capacity restrictions anymore in 2023. So those make up the bulk of the increase to sales tax in 2023. So I've started looking at sales tax a little bit differently recently, as you've also seen in those monthly emails. This further combines categories. It's a, especially in terms of retail trade, it categorizes all retail trade into one category. So you get to see everything rather than just one or two categories. So retail trade, when you look at 2023 compared to 2022, it's a 3.3% decrease. But again, that 2022 one-time impact, if you remove that impact from these numbers, it's actually a 1% increase year over year. But again, you're seeing, I think you're seeing the impact to increasing prices and thus having a decrease to overall retail trade volume. So looking at our most significant expenditure in the general fund, I think many of the council members have said in the past, our employees are our most important asset, but they're also the most expensive asset that we have. So this is a 10-year look at general fund salaries and benefits. You're seeing in the yellow line, the percentage change from year to year, and then salaries in blue, benefits in red. You can see that we had a 20% increase in 2023. There are a number of reasons that we have that 20% increase. The first and foremost is for most of 2022, we didn't have settled labor contracts for two of our largest labor groups. And you basically had 2 years worth of COLA all happen in 2023. We also had about $1.4 million in retro pay that went out to employees in 2023, so that also pushed 2022 salaries and benefits into 2023. And we just had high levels of cost of living adjustments because of those inflation numbers. So we often mirror cost of living adjustments with inflation. So really kind of had three different factors that went into the 2023 increase. Also, if you look over the 10-year period, significant increases from 2014 to 2023. 2014, we had just over $20 million in salaries and benefits. The 2023 actual expenditures was 34.4, so about a $14 million increase. Of course, we had cost of living adjustments that happened over this 10-year period. If you just take 3% of that $20 million over 10 years, that's about $6 million. We also added about 80 FTEs over this period. So significant increases there.
Quick question, Troy. Do you have benefits separated out anywhere from salary and benefits? I'm just curious, how much has the cost of health insurance and all of that, how much has that risen from 22 to 23?
I didn't look at the impact from 2023, but it's been running about 6% for benefits overall, and that includes, I actually have a slide that will show some of the increases, but there's employee pension contributions, there's medical insurance, vision, dental. So
thank you.
That. So to provide a little more detail in terms of those cost of living adjustments that we're seeing, so for our Ask Me union, this is our largest bargaining group. I'll also state that the non-represented employees typically get the same COLA as Ask Me employees. So the 2022 adjustment was 4%. Again, these contracts were not settled well, actually this one was settled in 2023, I believe. So that 4% actually was retroactive in 2023. We had a 5% COLA in 2023, plus an additional 1% in December. And then in 2024, the settlement was 4.5%. So you could see, obviously the cumulative impact of that over just this 2-year period is impacting those numbers. Lacey Police Officers Guild, this makes up the majority of our police force. This contract, I think, settled in December of 2022, but essentially, that got pushed forward to 2023. So the guild settlement was 5% in 2022, 6% in 23, plus an additional 1% in July. The 2024 impact is 4.5% plus a 1% accreditation increase. So significant increases, but these are in alignment with our comparable cities, also in alignment with what we've been seeing with inflation. On the benefits side, we actually have experienced decreases to the employee pension contribution. So this is the share that the city pays. So, just under a 1% decrease for PERS employees, actually a slight increase for law enforcement. The 2024 increase to medical insurance was 4.1% for Regents, 5.6% for Kaiser. Just for reference, about 60% of our employees are in Regents. Yes?
I was going to ask, what do you attribute the decline in the PERS since we've actually gained staff?
I believe that is interest earnings. So, this is those are the primary funding sources for pensions is long-term investments as well as contributions. But because we've seen a dramatic increase to interest rates, these are funds that definitely benefited from that. Mm-hmm. There was no 2024 increase for either of our dental plans for employees, and there was no increase for vision. So 2024 was actually a very good year in terms of those increases. But yeah, over the 10-year period, again, it's in that 5-6% range in terms of annual increase. As I just alluded to, the federal funds rate, we had historic increases from about March of 2022 to about mid-2023. This, obviously benefited the city in terms of its own interest income. In terms of looking forward, we just had a Federal Reserve board meeting on the 20th, I think, of March. There was no rate change, so there hasn't been a change since last summer, essentially. They have penciled in 3 decreases for 2024. So the expectation is these rates will stay high throughout 2024. That's a pretty big change from even just 3 months ago, where we thought there was going to be a much more dramatic decrease to rates. But inflation is holding on. So their target inflation still has not been met. In fact, inflation has gone up, I think, the last 2 months. So it's not significant by any means, but rather than going down, it's been going up. I think the market is about 75% sure that the first decrease will be in June, so at the June 12th meeting. But things can change, and the Federal Reserve has certainly indicated that this is still going to be driven by the market indicators. So things could definitely change before then.
They suggested a quarter or a half or any incremental amounts.
It sounds like 0.75% decreases in 24.
3/4.
Speaking of inflation, this is the CPI for U.S. We've definitely been going in the right direction, but again, we still have not met that Federal Reserve target. I will note this is not the inflation index that the Federal Reserve uses. It uses a core inflation, which removes energy and food. So 2 very volatile indicators is what they're using. But in terms of the overall inflation, we last saw in February, I think is the last inflation number we saw, it was still at 3.2% for U.S. For the Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue area, we've historically lagged behind the U.S. inflation, as well as going into recessions and coming out of recessions. I think it's somewhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on the economic period. But, you know, we're following a similar trend line, but again, we're a little bit behind. So February 2024 inflation for Seattle was 4.3%. So we're on the decline, but still behind.
What was the Fed's goal, 2?
2%.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I believe that core inflation is under 3%. I can't recall. It might be 2.7, 2.8. I can't quite remember, but it's still not quite there. This seems like a really random slide. The real estate excise tax. This is receipted by our transportation capital improvement fund. But this is also how we're going to be funding the debt for the police station. So it's, you know, definitely going to impact the general fund. So for 2023, the total real estate excise tax collections were just over 3.2 million. 2022, we collected 5.8 million. So we had a pretty significant drop. We expected that. High borrowing rates as well as high real estate rates. Normally those go in opposite directions, but they're going in the same direction, which is not good for the real estate market. So we expected a drop. In June, there was a significant, obviously there was a significant transaction that occurred. If you take out that, you know, $950,000 tax collection and you adjust that to the average throughout 2023, that drops the collections down to about 2.5 million, which is kind of exactly where we thought we should look at in terms of the decision to use real estate excise tax and future real estate excise tax to pay for that debt. So the good news is we're right there where we thought we should be, and you know, it's all to say that in terms of the council's comfort with using this funding source for that debt, we're still on target. So that is the end of the report. Again, you have the full details in the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on something I might not have covered, or maybe even questions on something I did cover.
I was just gonna maybe, if it's not too much to ask in the future, I know we had a couple CPI slides towards the end, but if we know we're going over a lot of 10-year periods and we're seeing numbers go up, if there was kind of an easier depiction of what the kind of inflation is over that time period to see how we're increasing in comparison to those actual numbers going up, if it's not a large task to throw in there somewhere.
Well, it'd be easy. We could add just another line possibly in there. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't necessarily have any questions or comments. I read through that earlier, and I know that when we did the multi-year utility hike, or I won't call it a hike, when we did our multi-year utility step, it was one of the primary things that you were talking about was the ability to bond against it, and the REIT dollars that we're bonding against as well. As I know that incoming properties are exempt from the 1%. Is it for a 12-month period?
No, it's just in the year that those values are added. So it's
Okay.
really just a one-time addition of those properties.
So the calendar year of the addition.
Right.
Okay, and then they can be part of the 1%. And then is that also true for annexed properties?
It's exactly the same treatment, yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, please.
So, Troy, I mean, everything looks great. My one concern, and we've talked about this in the past, but the retail sales growth of only really 1% with almost 6% inflation says that we're actually selling less, right? We actually have less consumer goods being sold. Should we be concerned going forward here with budgeting for next year? Is that trend continuing? What do you see in that trend?
The first 2 months of 2024, which are actually receipts from the last 2 months of 23, we actually experienced increases higher than that 1%. So again, it's a little too early to call that a trend, but it's going in the right direction. In fact, February was actually quite favorable in terms of that specific category, but we'll obviously watch that very carefully. We know sales tax can be volatile, so that's why we look at it monthly. It's why we share information with the council monthly. We definitely don't want any surprises, but yeah, it's the general fund's single largest source of revenues, which obviously helps us provide that service that our residents and our community members have been accustomed to. So yeah, we'll be watching it very carefully as we certainly head to mid-year, and we'll be watching closely, and we'll keep you informed.
Thank you.
Mayor Ryder, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
No, just the fact that, obviously inflation's had a huge impact, but the fact that our city revenues have continued to be record retail sales regardless of the inflation, I think is a good news for the city of Lacey. And so whether it's the inflation's gone up and we're still bringing in the revenue, or regardless, I think it's overall it's pretty good news for the city of Lacey, and that's what I've talked to Troy about, and I still feel pretty confident going forward. And I do think looking at the first couple months, there's always a lag, but looking at my own business, it's I think things were still on a pretty good track for retail sales in the city of Lacey. That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Dunning.
My question just had to do with new construction. And do you see some of the downslope we've had in the last few years being the higher interest rates? And if so, as the year goes on, the rates start lowering and into next year, do you foresee a potential increase in that new construction starting again?
Yeah, that's the hope. I do want to acknowledge that, as a city, we're reaching full build out.
Yeah.
So when you saw the 2020, 21, those really high development years, that was commercial industrial, it was multifamily. So as we know, Northeast Lacey is filling up. So, but yeah, I think affordability, interest rates, it's going to be nothing but a good thing for that industry. We'll just see what that actual impact may be.
So yeah, and with builders having to take 2 years off, it kind of slowed us down, and so now we're short on housing that we're desperately needed housing. We all know that, and so with coming out of the pandemic, it was just like this land grab. Like everybody who could possibly build something, get their crews back to work, we're just grabbing up as much as they can, even a mushroom farm to build some McMansions, and so it looks like we're probably going to be built out sooner than we thought because right now a lot of builders are getting real aggressive with getting projects going, which helps our construction dollars temporarily until we run out. So with our planning commission working on those 8 parcels, we'll see how that turns out and see how those get built out.
And that'll be some of the one of many key conversations we'll have in this comprehensive plan update. Earlier, Mr. Fields talked about the climate action type stuff, but we also need to look at land use, transportation, economic development, look at opportunity sites and how we evolve from that, the growing community to now an infill community, and where are some opportunity sites? How do we leverage? How do we work with our property owners to see what their vision is to match with the city and make those investments? And as Councilmember Dunning asked a question, yes, the interest rates do delay some projects. If they have projects that were ready to go and break ground this year that they had to hold off because they had to wait for more favorable financing in order to launch the projects, but they're still there waiting to be had. So there is going to be some activity later this year or next year, and that was probably delayed this year.
So for in housing, so for every 1 percentage point that the interest rate goes down, nationally you have 5 million new buyers that come into the market, and it sounds like the Fed's going to be doing 3/4 of a point in June potentially, and maybe even more. So if the rate goes down 2 points this year, then that's at least 10 million new borrowers coming into the market, and that many more people who are going to want to live in this area. We don't have enough for the people that want to live here now, unfortunately. So we're going to be in a situation where we're going to need to develop not just 3,000 square foot houses, but things underneath 1,500, workforce housing and these types of things, potentially things under AMI. So we're going to get real popular real fast.
All right, and that concludes the formal part of the city manager report, but one other thing I want to just mention for the good of the order in the community is I want to shout out a congratulations to Lacey Fire District 3. Today they celebrated their 75th anniversary. Lacey Fire District 3 was established in 1949, and they had a nice they started with their older fire station, which is now Pope John Paul II High School. They're off of Pacific Avenue with open house, and they brought in a lot of the old older fire trucks and equipment down display, and eventually had a parade down Pacific to their new station, and finished the celebration there. So I just want to. It was really well attended. That saw a lot of people there that I hadn't seen for a long time. They retired out of Fire District 3 and the City of Lacey. And I think everybody knows the City of Lacey and Fire District has had a long-standing partnership. And so it was nice to see both former employees and both the district and the city that I hadn't seen for quite some time. I know Chief Almada was there today. And I don't know if the other council member had a chance to make the open house, but it was a nice event. And again, I want to congratulate the Lacey Fire District 3 on 75 years of providing great service to this community. And that concludes my report.
Excellent. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is boards, commissions, and committee reports. And the mayor is up first.
I do not have a report.
Awesome. Okay, and I am next. I do have one quick report. The EDC met on the 27th. We met at the Lacey Makerspace. There was actually a ribbon cutting there, and so the Lacey Makerspace being officially open now for business for anybody who wants to go and fabricate something, get a membership. A couple of key things from the meeting. The City of Olympia gave their sub-area plan for the triangle sub-area. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it is the triangle between Cooper Point, Harrison, and, what's that third road? Division. And so they've created a new sub-area plan for that. The plan is to again, we're looking for housing, so the plan is to build that area up, mixed use, more retail and more mixed use, and they're kind of trying to figure out the parking portion of it now, so that if and when this comp plan, they're going to add it to their comp plan, but if and when this goes through, it'll be kind of more of what their downtown is currently like. Which is retail on the bottom, mixed use, so living spaces above. Right now, the goal is to get community support. They've had many of the business owners in the area come out and say, hey, we would like to see this, we would like to see that. Some of the restaurant owners suggesting that, I need family parking. So I guess the main takeaway from that is that entire triangle area could be potentially redeveloped in the next 20 years to something like what their downtown area currently is, with retail on the bottom, housing just above it, mixed-use housing. And at this point, it's, comp plan meetings, community meetings, and getting stakeholder and community buy-in for that plan. Another item on our agenda is the STEADY program, and the EDC has been working the STEADY program since 2012, and STEADY is basically the south half of Thurston County, and at this point, they meet every the third Friday of every month at 8:30 a.m. and the list of participants for the program to develop the South County has gotten really big. Like 23 different entities, including Congresswoman Strickland's office, Senator Patty Murray's office. They all attend this meeting because of their concern for the future growth of the southern portion of Thurston County. So in that meeting came the Well, I should say one of the things that came out of that meeting or that entity is the agricultural park that is now almost fully stood up in Tenino, and a lot of it has been based in Tenino. So Tenino has been kind of like the South Sound hub of innovation and things that are happening, especially with this committee. Again, they meet the third Friday of each month. It's at a different location. It's rotating through each of the communities. The regular monthly meeting attracts about 35 businesses and community leaders to the session. Let's see, the organization partners with the EDC and the CB&I board, and they're promoted and pushed out to those businesses. Over the last several years, Steady has been directly responsible for about $7.5 million of economic impact to the Steady communities. Let's see. Make sure I cover it all. There's some strong support grants. And then finally, again, the Lacey Makerspace, a tour was provided by the director. We had a couple speakers speak there. The Thurston Chamber, Lacey Chamber, Tumwater Chamber. It was an all-skate for the Lacey Makerspace. And then the next board meeting is going to be Wednesday, April 24th at from noon to 1:30, which will be held at the Newmarket Skills Center in Tumwater. So it kind of moves around to whoever needs the attention in that area. And actually, there is another event at Lacey Makerspace this week.
Yes, there's a couple of visits there. Well, I think this afternoon, representative from Senator Murray's office stopped by the Makerspace to look at the finished product, and then on Thursday at 11:30, Congresswoman Strickland will be stopping by to tour the space, and both Senator Murray, Senator Cantwell, as well as Congresswoman Strickland have been very supportive of the Makerspace activities and help with the funding for the expansion of the project. So we'll get a chance to showcase that for them, and also to give them opportunity to see kind of the benefits we see. And one of the nice things too, we developed a map based on current membership and just current membership's location by zip code. And it's pretty interesting because, of course, as you can imagine, there's a big cluster of members right in the Thurston County, Mason County, Lewis County, Pierce County, South Pierce County area. But it actually extends as far north as members from the Seattle, Bellevue area, members out at Ocean Shores and Grays Harbor. And the furthest south member is a resident of Washington County, Tigard, Oregon. And so you kind of see some of that. There's people being aware of this, and as this gets more facilities, it's going to improve. And then also the partnership with AJAC, which is a aeronautical advanced manufacturing apprenticeship program that's started out of South King County. They're now going to be sharing space there and develop some apprenticeship programs. And then also we have Aspire that's going to be also providing some opportunity for workforce development and potentially even a connection for individuals out of Maple Court if they're ready for new skills construction training, maybe also a vehicle for that. So there's a lot of cool momentum coming out of this effort, and we may be outgrowing that space fairly quickly, which is a good thing. So we'll continue to report out on some of the progress and success at the Makerspace.
And normally I would have a JASCOM update as well, but that meeting got canceled and got pushed over to Monday the 8th, so I will report on that in 2 Tuesdays from now. And that is my report. Councilmember Greenstein.
So I have just one report tonight. Medic 1 EMS Council met on the 20th of March. Just a couple of kind of highlights from that meeting. Been working and struggling really with recruitment of paramedics. There's a national shortage. So they did do a national recruitment, advertised in major publications that paramedics in that community nationwide, and only got 6 applicants. So somewhat disappointing results from that recruitment effort, but it's very difficult because everyone is struggling to have enough paramedics. But we're working on it because we need, in order to stand up the additional unit that is intended to be stood up next year, an 8th medic unit, we need to hire about 25 paramedics. So we've got a lot of work to be done there. Wow. I presented to the board the bylaw changes that we're recommending. I chaired a bylaws committee to look at and rewrite the bylaws. Those were presented to the board at the last meeting. We'll vote on them at next month's meeting. Had a pretty lengthy discussion of some of the possible protocol changes for opioid addiction. So there's a lot of work going on with the use of Suboxone and leave behind Narcan. So you're going to see some pretty major changes to the protocols that the paramedics are using to introduce those two things. I won't get into details on how the Suboxone works, but we got a pretty in-depth lecture on how that process works. And the leave behind Narcan, the idea behind that would be that the paramedics actually not only administer Narcan, but then leave Narcan with the patient for the possibility of, a later need for it. So there's a lot of talk about changing some of those protocols. And then the last thing, which is fairly big news, is we formed a committee of which I'm going to be a member, subcommittee, to start doing an analysis, a financial analysis, to see if it would make sense for EMS to actually break off from the county and become an independent agency, kind of like TCOM went through several years ago. Not saying that that's going to happen, but we've been instructed to start looking at that process and whether financially it would make sense and so on. So we're just at the very early stages of that, and I will keep you informed as we move forward. Thank you.
Is the leave behind Narcan, is that a syringe? Or is
No,
that-
it would be nasal.
It's
It would
nasal.
not be a syringe. Yeah, it would be
Okay.
nasal.
To start looking into it.
So the director of EMS, Ben, met with his boss, which is the assistant county manager, and they've also briefed the commissioners to talk about it, so that no one was going to be surprised by this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cox.
Okay, two fairly brief reports. The first is on the Regional Housing Council, which met on March 26th. We had officer elections, and Michael Althauser from the Tumwater City Council was elected chair to succeed me. I've just finished 2 turns with the gavel, so happy to relinquish that, and I know Michael's going to do a great job. And we retained County Commissioner Emily Klaus as the vice chair. She had been appointed when she replaced Carolina Mejia on the board, and our agreement calls for a city, has to be 1 city representative and 1 county representative holding the executive offices. So with Emily being so new, it seemed wise to choose a city representative, and Michael is actually a founding member of the Regional Housing Council and the group that came before that, so I think he'll do well. We heard a presentation on the Built for Zero program. This is a data-based program that has a goal of reducing the number of Thurston County residents who are homeless. Data is really hard to collect for the homeless community in the first place because, well, for a number of reasons. You've got multiple agencies involved in gathering it. People are often reluctant to share it, and it just, it's a complex thing. And so this is designed to come up with a more common system of information gathering and record keeping so we can more efficiently keep track of people so they don't fall through the cracks and help them into better living situations. The zero part of Built for Zero doesn't mean there will be 0 homeless. It means the number won't grow. So for every new person who becomes homeless, there's somebody who has been helped out into a better living situation. So I want to be clear about that. We've also been doing a little bit of work on the manufactured home parks protections, and the county staff has pulled together a lot of data on the number of manufactured home parks, demographics of the residents of those parks, and ranking which are the most vulnerable of the parks. And so I think this will give us a good platform to continue that work. And Jennifer from our staff has been really helpful in that as well. So that's great. And then this wasn't part of the meeting, but I just thought you all would be interested in this. They did the point in time homeless count, and it was the night of January 25th. And there were 864 individuals who were experiencing some form of homelessness at that point in time that could be counted. So of those 864 people, 417 were completely unsheltered, 400 were staying in emergency shelters, and 47 were in transitional housing. By comparison, last year there was a reported total of 740, 724 in 2022, and an all-time high in 2021 of 1,145. This year they tried, because in order to be counted, a person has to agree to be interviewed and provide basic demographic information. And people are reluctant to do that for a lot of reasons. So this year they set up 5 stations, each designed to attract a different part of the population, like youth and seniors and so on. And so there were some carrots there in the form of blankets and other hand warmers and other supplies that they could get for free if only they would come and respond to the survey so they could be counted, which helps Thurston County actually qualify for more funding, the more, to balance out that. So it's never an easy thing.
It
But,
sounds like the numbers are going down, though, trending down?
well,
Or
not,
are we?
From 2001, but not from last year.
Okay.
yeah. 2021 was an all-time, but I believe that year they used a little bit different way of counting that kind of skewed it.
Yeah, I think they're getting better at counting too and getting people to participate in a better way as well, it seemed like.
So and the reason why I bring it up is because, visibly
Right.
speaking, it looks like we're doing a lot better. And I'm listening to your numbers and I'm wondering, are we really doing a lot better?
Well, you're seeing fewer people on the street because we've got more people into shelter and permanent supportive housing, and those things are starting to catch up a little bit with the right-of-way initiative to.
Are they considered homeless if they're in our shelters? Or that's what, yes.
Depending on what kind of shelter they're in, yeah.
Okay. That helps.
Rick,
Thank you.
you want to say something?
No, I
else?
was just going to say, it depends on what type of shelter. If you're in permanent supportive housing, then they're considered housed, but if they're in enhanced shelters or overnight shelters or emergency shelters, then they're considered still unhoused.
Still part of those numbers.
And it's also a challenge from year to year in the point in time counts because, the methodologies change from year to year. Sometimes, I remember one year they had volunteers going out into the community to try to track, but then you can't identify if you're double counting or not. And then also now they try to focus on resources and bring them to a central location, but you don't know if you get everybody. So it's from year to year, it's very difficult, but it's just to give a snapshot in time. It's not necessarily to be an exact census.
Right.
Right.
Like I said, I think there's a lot of people who weren't getting counted before, and they've done a much better job of counting people now. So it's a little more accurate, at least currently, than it was 2021 or 2020.
Okay.
Right.
But it seems like we're trying to trend in the right direction.
A lot of work is happening.
I also noticed that Unity Commons is making some good progress on phase 2.
Right, yeah. Now, that will be administered by Low Income Housing Institute of Seattle, and that will be, I think, low-income housing versus permanent supportive housing, if I understand correctly. I think that may be the case, so.
Still progress.
Yeah, and I guess on the homeless front, too, the Interfaith Works has just completed purchase of what was once called the Golden Gavel Inn on Capitol Way. And that is going to be converted into supportive housing.
Is it going to be enhanced shelter first and then convert, or is it going straight to?
I think they're going straight to converting.
To support, to permanent supportive housing?
Yeah. Because there are some things, repairs that have to be made, and they're going to turn the office lobby into a common meal space and that sort of thing, so.
And it's called the Golden.
Golden Gavel or the Olympia
The Olympia
Hotel?
Inn.
Olympia
Oh, right.
Inn.
It's
Okay.
just, it'd be south of the Chase Bank. Used to be Washington Mutual Bank there.
And how many units do they have?
30, I believe. I don't know if that's how many they're going to use, but I know the hotel had 30 units.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think they may save a couple of units for staff there, but anyway, and it will be staffed 24/7.
Awesome.
So it's very cool. Okay, and let's see, Intercity Transit met on March 20th. March 18th was National Transit Employee Appreciation Day, and Intercity Transit celebrated with a whole week of activities to recognize all the employees who keep Intercity Transit rolling. At the meeting, we saw footage of drivers who reacted very swiftly to avoid collisions with motorists and bicyclists who just pulled out right in front of them, as well as a driver who spotted a person down and actually resuscitated the man this was at a transit stop. So, I mean, lots of heroics go on there. We heard a presentation on intercity transits. They call it equal employment opportunity efforts. We call it DEI, but it's the same difference in their efforts to hire a workforce that reflects the community's various demographics. There was a 10-year celebration for the Bus Buddy volunteer program, and this is a program where community volunteers who are expert at navigating the bus system help passengers who are new to it figure out how to use the system. And you'd be surprised. I mean, if particularly people wanting to go up north to Seattle by bus, you can get a buddy to help you navigate that till you get comfortable with it. And it's just a really cool program, all volunteers. There's a new 21-member class of bus drivers that started last week, and this is important because the shortage of drivers has been holding back Intercity Transit's ability to fully regain the ground that was lost with COVID in terms of service. But we're getting there, and I think by fall we're going to be very close to where we were before COVID hit. Let's see, our Transit Authority is going to have a all-day planning session on May 10th. We had a visit from the Transit Security Administration who looked at our security and safety measures and offered a few improvements there. And then on a fun note, the Regional Bus Rodeo, and that's ROADEO, is coming up June 29th and 30th at the Trumwater Brewery. And this is an event where drivers and mechanics compete with peers from other transit organizations in skills. You know, drivers navigating courses and stuff, and mechanics have to go blind and then they troubleshoot some problem that has been planted for them on the bus, but they have to find it and fix it. Intercity Transit typically does extremely well at these, is consistently a regional winner, often is the state championship, and brings home a slew of national awards as well. So it's a point of pride, and I think we're going to have to build our own little trophy building for all the trophies those drivers bring back.
Okay. So we have the best mechanics, safest buses, potentially.
Best mechanics, best drivers, safest buses, yeah.
That is a win.
And that's my report.
Okay, just real quick, Councilmember Vasquez was unable to join us tonight. Her plane landed late, and she just wasn't able to get here in time for this meeting, so she is excused. Next, we have Councilmember Dunning.
I'll have just one quick one from the VCB, which met April 19th. We just had a work session, so you guys got a big update on what they've been really working on, the destination master plan. So that's been a big priority of theirs. They're also currently working on geofencing, all LTAC related events, so that way there can be some sort of performance-based data on how their marketing efforts kind of result for those. So we also are working towards our board retreat, which is going to be in just the next couple months. We've got a facilitator now for that, Doug Ma, and so I'm really hoping we get after that get a real detailed update on the information we went over in the work session with the destination master plan on how some of that stuff is going to be implemented and what they're going to do. So look forward to presenting that to you guys in the next couple months.
Awesome. So just when did the other jurisdictions get to hear the same presentation that we got to hear?
Yeah, so that was there's a list of as of now they might still have one or two stragglers on stakeholders that they have met with on that, because everyone's doing their own, and then we're combining that into one big one for priority purposes. So our priority purposes might not be the absolute priorities, but obviously we'll have our part in that. So yeah, they definitely a lot of meetings, a lot of calls, a lot of Zooms. So that's been a really big project for them. That's been their main focus, and hopefully we can really start putting all that stuff together. So yeah, they've done a lot of those.
So when it comes all together, are we gonna get to hear about it? And
that's what I'm hoping for after the board retreat. I'm hoping that there's a lot of that information that's compiled, and then I can present that to you guys. Probably July timeframe. I'm hoping we'll have that information.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it looks like that brings us to the end of our agenda for tonight. And, I don't really have a whole lot of anything left to say. I think it's all been said. I was going to make something up. Yeah. And then I decided not to. So, if there's no objection, then I will call this meeting adjourned if we all have said all we need to say and want to say.
Keep it classy.
Then keep it classy, lady, and Lacey. And this meeting is adjourned. Lady.